Hi everyone, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery and you can see I'm already set up with some foods and bedding and the bin that we're going to be working on. It's the system. It's populated by these worms that came out of my compost barrel, and the premise of this whole system was that, they're guests. They're not staying and that they'd eventually go back out into my compost barrel, unless there was some reason to keep them around. So they're pretty hungry system. When we set this system up, with a pretty generous feeding about a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago, 12 days ago precisely. We left kind of a mound, so the center of this bin, which is where we fed, there was a distinct peak, and at this point it looks almost like a little valley, a trough. So I'm curious to see how they've done with that feeding that they received 12 days ago. I believe I even mentioned in that video last time we checked in on these little guys was how the previous interval of 15 days that we had left between feedings last time seemed a bit much, and that we might want to reduce that a little bit. So 12 days seems like a good time to come in here and feed them. Let me get my glove on and let's get over to the other side of the bin. So as you saw a moment ago, I had written up one of my little information boards about this system. This is where we had tested out all those different pulverized seeds and grains before we decided to use those ingredients as the components of my worm chow, which is now just a blended combination of all those things that we tested individually with these worms. And that went 3 weeks, so that was a pretty good span between those couple feedings when all those grains went in there and the next time they got fed. We're now just back to regular everyday feedings. That last feeding that they got right down the middle was really generous, all kinds of leaves and bedding and food and grit and worm chow, you name it, everything went in there but the kitchen sink, and I'm sure they probably really enjoyed it. The bit that we see down the center here seems to be evidence of that. So let's get a peek at how things are progressing down in here. It always seems like we're running out a little spider inhabitant of our worm bin, and I always feel bad evicting these little guys. Last time I came into one of my bins to feed, the little guy just kind of walked off on his own and ended up who knows where, and this could be the same little guy. I'm going to put him over on my shelf. Alright, over there he can get himself situated in a new bin, and then when we go to feed that new bin that he's just moved into tomorrow, we'll have to evict him all over again. Poor little guy. So there's one other ingredient besides the grit and the bedding and the chow and everything else that I want to include, and that's this mixture of the BTI. It's that mosquito dunks material. And I've been trying to incorporate it now into all my systems, so that top covering piece of newspaper that was out here, perhaps even this top covering coffee filter, or if this coffee filter ends up just becoming bedding as part of our feeding, this new coffee filter that's coming in here, we could use that as our feeding zone indicator. I want to soak all those paper objects with some of that BTI drenched water. Treated? Drenched? Whatever. So it does look to me, it's hard to tell when, things are this tiny, but I'm pretty sure that these are mites hanging out on this coffee filter. All things considered, it's not too bad. Sometimes when you feed your systems with a lot of fruity stuff, or there's maybe excess moisture, the mites start to show up, I believe, but I think they're pretty much a common player in pretty much every worm bin in varying degrees. Some people have many, some people have few, but I think they're pretty much everywhere. So we'll just set this aside and we'll include it as bedding with the next feeding. All this leafy matter we sprinkled out across the top, I'm sure a lot of it just got nibbled up from below. Worms coming up to take a little bite from it. It was thrown in here dry, so that bubble wrap that we had the whole entire container covering would have been forcing recirculation under itself, so helping to dampen a bunch of it. I mean, a lot of it is totally dry still out on the top, but the stuff that was up against the material right below it probably got a good good dampening and maybe a little bit of worm action too. So the last feeding, man, we put all kinds of goodies in here for them, and it was a generous amount too, so I'm sure we're going to see a pretty good turnout in here. 12 days later, I'm not sure what to expect as far as leftovers are concerned. Maybe we'll see some stuff. So let's, I guess we're going to be pretty much upturning this whole feeding area for the most part. So at this point, I'm just kind of plowing right down to the bottom of the container with my thumb to dislodge some of the stuff that's kind of pasted to the bottom, but it seems like all the worms are right at the bottom. That's the place to be. Good amount of moisture down there that they're all taking advantage of down low. Now here's like wow, it's still intact, or pretty much together. It's a banana peel, and this is like the flower end of it where it connects together, the different pieces of the peel that you peel back, and then even the stem end of it. 12 days, not bad. You can tell that they're working on it, so they're certainly not neglecting it. But 12 days, that might still be, you know, a little early to see a lot of progress on a banana peel, but that's a good start for sure. I've got another banana peel for them. You might have noticed in the food arrangement that we've got for them, besides another banana peel they're getting today, it's some other veggies that went into a soup. There's a piece of cantaloupe, or yeah, cantaloupe down here. Cantaloupe rinds, a couple of them, coffee, even a soiled paper towel to give to them along with the worm chow. So yeah, this feeding area is doing pretty good, gotta say. This just looks like some maybe paper that was thrown in here too alongside the food as bedding. My prepared bedding will come in handy here, I think. We'll be sure to include a good bit of bedding to go hand in hand with their feeding today. This might also be just a big wad of leftover bedding. Looks like paper, maybe another coffee filter, just based on its color. Could be. And here's more banana peel, as well as this piece here. This one looks like it's really been worked down because it feels really thin right through here. Very nice. So many castings in this system. I was already noticing that last time too. It was a little bit surprising. Makes me want to give them more and more bedding. So it's a good thing that I've got a pretty good amount of it prepared. I went to my shredder the other day and prepared some more. So I'm restocked when it comes to bedding. Last time we even took my collection of leaves and we even treated the whole entire top surface with leaves. Give the whole system kind of a nice earthy look and feel to it. And I've got a whole bunch of leaves, so we can certainly do that again today, and I think we just might do exactly that. I think that's only going to do the system good. Yeah, you know, a system that's, you know, 76 days of age, I still feel okay putting stuff in that's going to include little things like the stems of leaves and stuff that's going to take a little longer to break down. There'll be time enough for those tall break down gradually. And well, things like this. Yeah, that's a leaf stem too. It's a pretty good sized one too. All right, so I've got to grab my bedding. It's got some good weight to it. I used a fair bit of water when I was preparing this stuff. And I'm going to sprinkle some of that in here on the bottom. That's a nice amount. So in this baby food jar here is where I've got this, basically water that's got that little BTI thing floating around in it. I was going to soak not only some of the paper that's going to be floating out on top, sitting out on the top surface, but I thought I can maybe even drizzle a little bit down, right down into the feeding area. Just want to kind of spread this stuff around, give it a little bit more. Things in this system don't seem overly damp, so I don't feel bad putting extra moisture in, but hey, if you got to, you got to, right? Now we can start bringing in this yummy food. This is all recycled bedding, reused bedding, top covering type feeding zone indicator. It's all going to get used as bedding, and then we'll just keep this coffee filter as our new feeding zone indicator. Let's throw in a little bit of coffee in with this yummy bedding they're getting down here. I would think that most people will agree that this system probably could use bedding, just from looking at how many castings are already piling up in this stuff. You know, there's traces of bedding here and there, but it's dwindling. So yeah, a little supplement to the bedding certainly isn't going to hurt. So first went in the worm chow, and then this is the grit. And let's throw in some veggies. This is that those soup things. I mean, sometimes you prepare a soup and the things like carrots and whatever, certain things stay in the soup. They're delicious to eat, but the other things are just in there to give the broth yummy flavor and get fished out before you serve up the soup. That's what some of these things down here are, and then maybe we'll kind of assemble one more little layer to put those fruits on. So the veggies will go down on the bottom. We can start giving them some of this stuff here too as supplementary bedding. Throw those right in between the layers of food, and those things don't stand a chance, right? They're going to get gobbled up. 1, 2, 3 here. So a little bit more paper. And yeah, what remains. Let's throw a little bit more of our prepared bedding in here, since it does seem like they could use it. And we can start laying in the last of the food that we've got for them here. So when I watched the video from the last time we checked in here 12 days ago to feed them, I was just looking at what a nice arrangement that feeding had been, and it just looked like such a good combination of foods and bedding and stuff that the worms are really going to enjoy. I'm kind of getting that same vibe from this feeding too. It seems like a bunch of really good stuff they're probably going to really enjoy eating. So between recycling all the old foods that they'd been given in previous feedings, as well as a nice generous amount of brand new foods, these little guys got their work cut out for them. We're almost in a situation again like we were last time, where there's so much stuff in here that it's probably going to form into a little bit of a mound once we get everything covered. You know what, we'll bring some fresh leaves in. So these leaves that have been down here within the system for the past 12 days, nice and seasoned, prime for being placed right up near the foods. Let's use that to cover up with for a large part. Then we could backfill some of those voids with just a nice overall top covering of more leaves. Yeah, we don't gotta go overboard. I don't want to kind of use up all the available space in my systems right away. I want to be able to gradually lay this stuff in, although sometimes I wonder if that's the right thinking, you know. Would it make more sense just to pre-build the system at, you know, at whatever capacity of material you could stuff in there? even if you've only got a couple dozen worms? Or is it best to sort of proportionally scale the environment as the population grows? I don't know. I just figured I'd throw a little bit more of this stuff down before we put in some of these top covering papers, and then we'll put the rest onto this piece of paper. Or actually, maybe we'll just drizzle it over the top of the newspaper that covers this. How does that sound? And then it should remain there. It shouldn't evaporate away. It should remain stuck to this paper for the most part, because we'll put that bubble wrap on at the end, and then that should keep it from evaporating, keep it down here in the bin. And the way that stuff works supposedly is if the little flying insects try to lay their eggs in there, the eggs will hatch, they'll be fine, but the larvae will be affected by not being able to develop to full maturity. So the next generation is what will be inhibited from actually being able to develop and remain in place. So that's my strategy here for now. I think we are done. All right, so that's our current feeding number 6 for this system. 76-day-old system of red wigglers, I assume. Stuff that came in with the compost from my outdoor worm barrel. Now there was, not worm barrel, compost barrel. But it's always loaded with worms, so it might as well be a worm barrel. But yeah, the last time we checked in, we did try putting some bait in to see how the worms in the compost that these little guys used to live in would react. You know, we did run our nursery using the material that these little guys were taken from. You know, after a couple months, I'm already at the point where I'm prepared to try luring worms out of that material, and we took a try at it with a piece of broccoli, and now I'm using another attempt. I did that a couple days ago. I set it up off camera, and at some point when there's something to show, I'll show it, but for now, it's still a work in progress. So that's it. All right, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.